Recording's on.
I hate recording. Recording off.
Wax on, wax off, Mr. Miyagi. You know, Karate Kid?
Keep me on my me.
What?
Can we restart?
Okay, we're doing that. Welcome back, everybody, to Double Dip Draft Season 7. I am your host of the Violent Division Week 3 recap. I am Spood, coach of the Southtown Sandslashers, and joining me once again.
I'm White Loaf of the Loafville Lanterns.
Wow! Welcome back. It's week 3. Whoa! Yeah, I mean, it's another day in paradise. You know, we got some pretty interesting matchups coming up this week. You know, we've got some storylines developing. You know, week 3, you're really starting to see like your path for the season laid out in front of you. You know, week 1, week 2, like you can throw both of those weeks away and then still, you know, end up with a 5-2, essentially guaranteeing you playoffs, like mathematically. But by week 3, you know, if you go like 0-3, then it's a little bit, you know, you're getting into like dicey territory. You know, that's where it becomes really tough to mount a comeback. And even if it's not as severe as like being 0-3 or 3-0 by this week, you know, this is pretty much like the deal maker and the deal breaker for some players, or at least the beginning of the end.
Yeah, like it is still technically possible. Like if you go like 0-3, but then you win your next 4 matches, like it does basically guarantee you a spot in playoffs. Because there's no way that everyone in that division is going to go 4-3, but like that's a big fight right there.
Yeah, and I mean that's dependent on, like, you know, you'd have to have a couple of players that just are hopelessly messed at the bottom that are getting, you know, like multiple players that end at like 1-6. To enable like multiple players beyond 4 players contesting a 4-3, which generally speaking that doesn't happen. You know, people tend to either buster completely out or go like 2-5, which is not enough leeway generally to allow for like such a lopsided game count. So I don't know. It's, you know, there's a lot of like technicalities and what ifs and, you know, coping mechanisms you can employ if you're 0-3 by now. But it's important. You know, this is kind of a big turning point for some seasons. Not as big as part 4, you know, as week 4, but week 3, you know, it's an illuminating week.
Yeah, no, it definitely kind of solidifies like where you're at for the rest of the season.
Yep. And again, you know, there's change can happen. But let's see what the chips say, where the dogs lie, huh?
Yep.
First up, we have got where the fuck sleep. First off, we have got Jason of the Hartford Honchkrows versus Cabral of the Slinging Aegislashers. And if you want to talk about somebody whose season is very much in the balance of this week 3, it is Cabral. Coming into this at 0-2 and having already taken an upset loss to Milo, Cabral is looking to claw back as much as he can. You know, taking an L to Aurora is fine-ish, you know, but you really can't afford to lose to Jason as well as Milo. You pretty much got to pick one.
Yeah, no. Cabral definitely wanting to get something on the board. Jason, kind of in a okay position. I wouldn't say he's exactly comfortable, but he's not exactly like, you know, not exactly hurting either. Sitting at a 1-1 with a differential of 2, like again, like he's currently top 4, but it could go at any moment.
He's basically already got his Woody game is the problem, right? So starting off with your 6-0 on Woody is great. But that's insurance that you're losing for later in the season. You know, if you go hopelessly down and your differential's messed, you could be like, well, and you know, again, love you, Woody, sorry. But, you know, you're thinking like, okay, I can at least make up like maybe a 4, 5, 6 differential jump if I still have my Woody match. But Jason going through Woody week 1, I mean, it's a good thing he got the 6-0, but now, fighting someone in that, like, sort of mid-level skill range for his division, fighting Cabral is a losable match, but it's also very winnable, and that means that you really want to try and win it, if not just for the numbers, for a potential tiebreaker head-to-head win. I tend to find that the wins against the people who are right next to you in skill are more important than huge upsets or trouncing like low-tier players. Like, you need to beat the people around you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But with all that being said, let's take a look at what each other's got.
Yeah, so Bramblegast in the mix, Toadscruel in the mix. some very interesting Pokemon. Toadscruel's a goofy little goober, he can hit Spore, but it's always negative priority.
But he can hit anything.
That's true, but he can't hit anything, except for, grass types. And
can it still hit grass types? I thought it could now.
It ignores abilities, not typing.
Oh, okay.
Which is funny because, there's counterplay as far as like, I'll just put on like safety goggles or whatever, but also it just doesn't always work. Like into Kobala Comatose, it doesn't work. Certain other like, insomnia Pokemon do still immediately wake up. So like the Spore utility is really only good into like Golden Go.
Yeah.
So unfortunately Toadscruel kind of hopelessly gimped by its ability, which is, probably for the best. You don't want a base 100 speed Spore user running around, but...
Yeah, thank God.
Yeah, definitely kind of a kooky Pokemon.
Yeah. Bramblegast, also kind of a kooky Pokemon, but not as kooky. Windrider is a very fun and interesting ability. Makes it where you're immune to stuff like Hurricane, but also some weirder ones like Heat Wave, for example. That's a pretty big one, which, Zapdos is a pretty big fan of using.
Yep. It uses both even. I mean, Hurricane and Heat Wave are very common brings on Zapdos, and Bramblegast is immune to both.
Yep. Which, when you're a Grass and Ghost, like, being immune to, like, two of the most, like, common moves that are used against you because of how, like, weak you are to them, pretty nice. Now we just need it to somehow be resistant to knockoff, and we're golden.
Yeah. Bramblegast is cool and an interesting utility pick. It is definitely hampered by its not so great stats and its pretty narrow, like, it's pretty decent at spinning and being a spin blocker at the same time. Like, you don't have a lot of those in the mix. Obviously, those are some very useful immunities on top of a grass typing. Being able to dodge some flying and fire attacks is always a plus. But, I mean, it's like a frail, sort of leech-seedy, spinnery Pokemon, and, hazard control is nice, but beyond that, it feels like a bit of a wet noodle, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think Gliscor looks pretty good into this matchup, too, actually. It does pretty well into Toxtricity and Zapdos, and it also, if it has its Toxic Orb active, does not worry about getting Spored.
Yep. No, Gliscor is great. As always, the only thing that, Cabral and, like, his entire team really needs to be wary of is King Gambit, but, it's King Gambit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, here's an interesting, fun little factoid. Did you know King Gambit and Diancie speed tie? Did you know that King Gambit Ironhead one-shots Diancie? Did you know that Diancie Body Press one-shots King Gambit?
Tell me more!
Did you know that this matchup is just the worst for both of them, and neither one of them wants to play that?
Yep. I know.
Yeah, very goofy. I mean, you may, in fact, see, like, a max speed plus nature Diancie, which you probably would never see otherwise.
Yeah, or at least, like, a little bit of speed crap, because let's face it, King Gambit doesn't really usually run speed.
Yeah, but, like, what if King Gambit is creeping, like, a Diancie, like, I can see one of them going to 4 speed to, like, outspeed the other one if they haven't put any speed in, and then someone else goes 8 to outspeed the 4 to outspeed the 0, but then maybe you think that they're bringing 8, so then you bring 12, and it's a whole thing. I mean, if you've ever been in a matchup where that speed tie is so important...
Yeah, no, catch me being that dumb motherfucker who's just like, fuck, I'm putting it all on speed.
Yeah. I will say, I mean, it's to Diance's benefit that it can at least Terra out of its quad weakness to Ironhead, whereas King Gambit can never not be weak to Body Press.
Yeah.
Something to note. But I think that's about all we need. You want to jump in?
Yeah, let's do it.
Diance leave, Magmortar gets the heck out of there.
Yeah, no, Magmortar wants no part of that.
Yep. Diance reveals some screens, no early Gliscor, poison setup, and so Diance just takes the spore. Yikes, man, that Volt Switch did so much damage.
Yeah, that thing has got to be specs. There's no way.
Yep. Behind a light screen. Very interested in, and it's something that I'd like to point out, it's a problem that Claire's been having on and off this season too. You don't set up your Pokemon when there's still the check alive. You know?
Yeah.
You don't like raw agility when Zapdos comes out and forces you out immediately.
I could understand going for the agility there because I don't think Ice Punch would kill even at +2, but it would hurt.
Yeah. It's I mean, there was Tailwind in the mix, you know, it was a little bit complicated, but King Gambit, I mean, still, even just on one Fallen is pretty powerful.
Power of 135, it's physical attack stat.
This Azelf is kind of a nuisance. It's very fast, and it actually does quite a lot of annoying stuff. And I also like this immediate run back of the opening turn.
Yep. Finally gets to wake up, get up another screen. Huge Diamond Storm.
Yeah. And here, Roost is fine because you're stalling out the screen, but you're also wasting your Tailwind turns, and you're risking a 50% Diamond Storm, defense boost every time you let it hit you.
Yep. And now the big one.
Yep.
And...
yeah, King Gambit does go for the Iron Head. Diance gets the hell out of there.
I, for some reason, thought, that they both switched out. I could have swore I had that memory.
There's a different one where they both switch out, I think.
Oh, that's all right.
Also, God, this is scary. No, this is where they both switch out, because Cabral does not want to get Sucker Punched, and King Gambit does not want to play the I'm going to see if I can get Sucker Punched game, where he's, protecting.
Yep.
That crit is also very unfortunate. That brings this into range of a second Psychic, which also prevents the screen from going up.
Yep. Which, we do need that screen to go up.
Yep.
I do love the Shell Smash here. You're now faster, you're going to hit pretty hard, but Ice Beam...
not the move.
Yeah. Should have gone for, Surf, or even Dark Pulse if you had it.
Yeah, I don't even know if he had Surf. I feel like it would have been a no-brainer to click it in that scenario if you had it.
Yeah.
But now Azelf with a Scarf is actually being a real problem. It doesn't even need a Scarf, to be honest, to be scary.
Yep. Does opt to switch out.
Yep.
And I think that there is a pretty big mistake.
Yeah, it's easy to say that in hindsight, but that Psychic was a roll. It didn't always kill. And Jason felt pretty confident that he could beat everything else if he, attacked some other game pieces, brought Azelf in a more safe position. But it never happened, This thing is protective pad, so it couldn't get staticked or flame-bodied. And after a Trailblaze, it was just in the exact right place at the exact right time to make the reverse sweep.
Yep.
And King Gambit, Jason even says in chat, it's not running Black Glass, it's running Lumberry, so the Sucker Punch doesn't even kill.
Yeah, which is fair. And something else to note about that, some more behind the scenes there. For Leavanny, it was running protective pads, so that way it wouldn't get hurt by Magmortar's Flame Body or Zapdos' Static.
Yep. Which just made it really good. I do believe Terra Blast is not a contact move, but Triple Axle very much is, and it was nice to be able to spam that into Zapdos and not have to worry about the inevitable static para that you would get if you were not running pads.
Yeah. Which, if it got either burned or parried, it definitely would have been a very different game.
Yep. But, as it stands, Cabral does manage to make the comeback. And he does end it with a 3-0 victory over Jason, which he really, really needed. I mean, it would have been real danger mode if he did not get that win.
Mm-hmm. But Cabral does, thankfully, at least put himself on the board. Which, definitely something he desperately needed.
Yeah, he was hurting for him, for sure.
Yeah, but that is in the past. It is now time to look into the future. And that future is IDM, coach of the Brussels Espeons, versus Aurora, coach of the Hoensbroek Hunters. A very fated matchup.
This is, I think we may have mentioned this in the last video, I forget. When you've been playing a long time and you're fighting the same people over and over, you've both been here since Season 1, inevitably you are going to play a lot if you're both good players. If you're making it to playoffs, if you're risking running into each other in division, you're going to have a lot of games. And Aurora and IDM, going into this game, had played 6 times in Double Dip history. And of those 6 times, Aurora has won once. So a 1-5 record versus IDM, so quite awful. And IDM is a tough nut to crack by all accounts for any player, but especially for Aurora, he is a huge problem to her bracket every time.
Yeah.
And they go close. Often they go close. Infamously, there was the one time where she was fighting Stakataka and she had to pick between doing a super effective ground type move or a super effective fighting type move, and she didn't know which of the 2 pinch berries he had, so she went for one and it was the wrong one, losing on a true coin flip 50-50. But she makes these deep runs. Aurora's such an amazing player. IDM, such a roadblock for her. And now they're fighting again in division. So this is an opportunity for Aurora to maybe pick up another big dub. This could also be an opportunity for IDM to simply bolster his ever-growing number of wins in group stage.
Yeah. Like you're saying, they just have such a long history. Hell, even before, Double Dip, these two played together pretty well before the days of Double Dip.
Yeah, we're going all the way back to, Spokemon, Smowdown, SSL, we're talking 2016.
Yeah.
These guys have been playing. It's hard.
It is hard.
It's hard to play something. I am no stranger to also having an absolutely abysmal record versus IDM. Aurora at least has beaten him before, which I have not done. You've gotten at least one, I think maybe even 2 wins on IDM in Double Dip history.
I think I've gotten 2.
Yeah, but they're hard to come by. So
yeah.
IDM versus Aurora in the group stage. What? Tell me about the team preview. What's interesting about that?
So Aurora, she's still got the classic team. The Iron Valiant, Pinchurchin, Dondozo. Those 3 are basically always going to come, no matter what. Iron Treads is also a pretty safe bet. We do see Hydrapple, which I don't think we saw last week. Mm-hmm. And Spiritomb is also pretty nice, being able to at least threaten a revenge kill on Annihilate if it's low enough with Shadow Sneak is always good. But IDM,
burn it and foul play it too.
Oh yeah, that too. IDM on the other hand, we've got his Primarina, which has been putting in work so far. Raikou is pretty good at dealing with Dondozo, I feel, especially if terrain is up. Mm-hmm. Noctowl is interesting.
It's pretty decent. A Hurricane is going to kill Valiant. It's going to kill Hydrapple maybe. And it's, because of Tinted Lens, you can't even switch into a resist without still taking a pretty bad chunk of damage.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not a good Pokemon. It's just a surprising one. It's a Pokemon you don't really see often.
No, certainly not.
Even in draft. And we can't see Terras yet. Do we know what Terra type it is?
We can check it. The Terra type for Noctowl is Psychic.
Psychic. Okay, interesting. I'm not quite sure what Psychic was for. Maybe it was for Pokemon that is on Aurora's team that she didn't wind up bringing. Or actually, it could be for Valiant. What am I saying?
But it's got Flying Stab.
I don't know. Maybe he doesn't want. Maybe he doesn't want to risk the miss.
That's true. Hurricane and Air Slash even are both not fully accurate, so I guess you're min-maxing for that. But IDM's heart is in terraing the Primarina anyway. I think that's been his pretty much exclusive Terra Sync every game.
Yeah.
And Primarina looks pretty amazing into this matchup too, huh?
Yeah, the only thing that doesn't really care about it is Dondozo, but
even that, like, you can curse all you want, but Dondozo, generally speaking, it's not like, you can't afford to run AV. You need those, like, utility moves on it. And, like, a Terra Fairy Moonblast into an unresisted Dondozo, like, special attacking, you can muscle through that thing from full.
Yeah, no, like, I'm not saying it's going to win 1v1. I'm just saying that, it's the only thing that doesn't really care too much. It still cares, though.
Still cares. There's a lot that Primarina does to this team that is not very pretty. But, like, Aurora's got the game pieces, right? Like, Dondozo in play means that Revavroom's not an issue, and some variants of, Annihilate aren't an issue. Raikou is very annoying for Dondozo, but Hydrapple deals with Raikou amazingly well. Noctowl is annoying, but, like, it's still a Noctowl at the end of the day. Like, still falls over to most hits, and she has a lot of fast and strong Pokemon like Treads or Valiant that can just kill it if they get in, with the correct positioning.
Yeah.
But, it's a lot of what ifs. We kind of have to see how the game goes if we want to talk about it, huh?
Yep, so let's do that.
Raikou lead, Aurora leads the Spiritomb. I think attempting to maybe head off an early Annihilate setup.
Which is very fair.
Mm-hmm.
Hydrapple just comes out huge for free. Earth Power doesn't really do a whole lot in the grand scheme of things, but it is behind screen, so it makes sense.
And that Leaf Storm does not do nearly enough, makes it so Hydrapple absolutely has to switch out, and now this thing gets a bulk up behind a screen with a Rage Fist that's already base 100.
Yep.
And it's Taunt, so it can't curse either.
Yep. No, it is pretty rough.
Yep. Rage Fist, yep, the Taunt comes out, Air Balloon instead of a Mental Herb means no Will-O-Wisp for you. Foul Play, still does a pretty respectable amount of damage, but obviously on account of the fighting typing, it's not weak to Foul Play, it's just neutral.
Yeah. I'm curious as to why Balloon.
Again, probably like a Pokemon that has, like, fighting in ground or something like that, or like normal in ground. Oh, Ursaluna!
Oh, right, okay.
But unfortunately
though,
Aurora,
the big one.
Bringing the physical set instead of the special set, which I believe was something that she kind of, stressed about whether or not to bring, and ultimately chose incorrectly.
Yeah. Now this is quite rough. Annihilate is staying quite strong now, especially with all these hits. Rage Fist doing a massive amount of damage.
Yeah, like Unaware is ignoring the bulk up, like attack boost, but it's still not ignoring the completely jacked up Rage Fist damage.
Mm-hmm. I do also love the Psychic Noise to prevent healing here.
Yep.
And Terra Fairying to
what? Does Psychic Noise prevent Regenerator?
I think I remember seeing something that, like, it does not. I don't know if it's like a bug or something, but I don't believe it does.
Well, I think we can actually just find this out, right? So this thing is at... Sorry, I know I'm just tearing it up right now. Okay, so it's at 86. Good. So when it comes back in, it should be at full.
Yeah.
So just remember that for later. The thing is also on a balloon. It's free balloon day for Aurora today.
Yeah.
She goes for the Earthquake. She's already playing on the back foot. She's hoping to catch a Raikou, potentially on like a switch into an Iron Head. Doesn't happen. But it is at full. So, yes, Psychic Noise does not block Regenerator.
Yep.
Now we know. And we also know that Terra Fairy Primarina just goes through the rest of the team. And a quick and relatively easy 5-0 for IDM over Aurora. Pretty crushing for Aurora. That sucks. I feel for you. Just did not really go her way. She had plans for stuff that didn't come. Maybe over-prepped for Ursaluna, under-prepped for Primarina. Didn't play, like, super great into Taunt, Annihilate. But again, like, you can only cover for so much stuff, right? Like, if you just guess wrong what's coming and then, you have the wrong set for the wrong team, it's hard. And, IDM did not give her a second to breathe. Immediately was positioning the Annihilate well. Taunt was blocking, every Will-O-Wisp attempt and Curse. And it was just really, really tough for Aurora, unfortunately.
Yeah. No, unfortunately, IDM has been living rent-free in Aurora's head for quite some time now. And I know, like, the last one especially, like, the memories of the imprisoned Gardevoir, they still sit very strongly.
Yeah. So, that is all she wrote for IDM versus Aurora. Well, hey, there's always, battle number 8, huh?
Yep.
Next
always
up,
playoffs.
There's always playoffs, that's true. And you know what? I'm sure both of them are going to be there, so.
Yeah.
We'll see something. I guarantee you we'll see something.
Yep.
But what is very interesting to me is the match that we are about to talk about. That is the one between the Treasure Town Togetics, coached by Mass, versus the Canadian Cottonees, as coached by Milo. Now, as we were talking about earlier, Milo kind of popping right now, barely lost to IDM. Did manage to get an upset win over Cabral, so, they're feeling pretty good right now. Mass, having kind of a so-so season so far. He's 1-1. His dip was like a little bit low, but he's still got like a lot of opportunity to go up or down. And I would say Mass by seeding is favored to win over Milo.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. Mass, while he has been playing Pokemon a little bit longer, Milo showed that he's definitely got like the talent for it. Again, getting the beat on Cabral and just barely losing to IDM. And not even due to like skill, just kind of like, I guess granted, like he could have made some safer plays, sure, but like at the end of the day, like it did come down to luck.
Yeah. No, him into Woody it didn't really go as well as he'd hoped it would. But now's an opportunity. If you can smack down Milo, you are doing yourself a huge favor, because Milo has already put himself in contention for like a real playoffs contender already. And if you're Mass, it's, again, I said it before, I'll say it again. The people around your level are the ones you want to beat. If you can pick up a win on Cabral, if you can pick up a win on Jason, if you can pick up a win on Milo, that is going to do wonders for your shot at getting into playoffs. But it's a two-way street. Milo really wants to beat Mass for the exact same reason.
Yep. So let's see which one can beat who.
Yeah, let's have a look, huh?
Yeah.
It's interesting, they're both IRL friends. Milo's part of the league because of Mass. So, always love a little team kill.
Yep. We love team killing.
Yep. So,
except for when it's us.
True. when it's roommate boys, we don't go for it.
Yeah.
Playing like a very standard opening there, actually, from the Frostlats, right? Spikes in a Destiny Bond, but Milo does not bite. Knocks it down to Sash, and then obviously get a Spike, or a Web. And then Milo positions really well, and then Mass positions really awful by just immediately giving Milo his his Pokemon.
Yeah. Huge Pokemon that you do not want to throw away. Like, now you cannot get rid of hazards, you cannot get rid of webs, which, Milo is 100% A-okay with.
Yeah, no, Milo loves having those webs up. They're only super relevant into, like, Tauros, right? Because, obviously, they don't affect Enamorus, Frostlast dies on rocks, and Muck doesn't really care.
Mm-hmm.
But still, a little web action is better than none.
Yep.
And this is, what I'm talking about. This is an actual good play, going into your Frostlats, understanding it's a safe sack. Now you get to switch into a very, topped off Muck. Whereas if you'd switched it in raw, that liquidation just went straight up killed. Now, unfortunately, it's still maybe not great to, have to sack another Pokemon just to get damage on this beast, but it does bring it in range of a hit from Dragapult.
Yep. Shadow Ball, very free. Yeah, Shaman, we saw what kind of work Shaman can do, like, before. And last week, I don't know if I fully agree with the Seed Flare here.
Yeah, I don't. If you're Terra Fairy, you're probably running Terra Blast. That's an awful play. Don't do that.
Yeah.
I don't know. That really sucks. The Seed Flare, yeah, it's nice. You know what? Milo was probably predicting... Well, no. No, that was still dumb because it wasn't Terra'd yet.
Yeah.
Alright, I don't know. Anyway, Mass very much on the back foot here. Milo up 3-1. But Enamorus is pretty fast.
Yeah,
And after this thing got its scarf knocked, it's now slower than Enamorus.
Yeah.
And Enamorus actually just reverse sweeps.
Yeah. Now there was a crit and Cabalion. I'll be honest, I don't know if it matters. It was already a half. But either way, I mean, like, I doubt that Cabalion would have been able to kill from full.
It did have Steel Beam, so it would have.
It had okay, never mind.
No, I helped Milo prep for this.
Never mind.
It definitely, you know, and Amorous was like an issue. Unfortunately, Milo getting knocked was pretty bad. It's even worse to lose your Regieleki. You know, they both made the same fatal mistake, which was that they switched in a Pokemon they needed to preserve and let it die. Mass, fortunately for him, just sacrificed the less important game piece, because once Regieleki was dead, it was a lot harder for Milo to deal with as an Amorous, whereas obviously Mass could still just about make it work without his Morpeko, even though obviously the rocks in the web was incredibly annoying.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, like, you know, when you have like Dragapult and an Amorous both like aren't affected by webs, like at the end of the day, it's like, you know what, I'm fine with this, whatever.
Yeah, true. I mean, it's fine. And, I mean, Mass partying for that. He definitely was hurting for that win. Milo definitely feeling the sting on that. You know, your upset win over Cabral can only carry you so many weeks if you don't make some more stuff happen. And Mass was like a real key opportunity to actually, you know, put a wider gap between himself and the competition. But unfortunately does not pan out for Milo. Does barely pan out for Mass. Although, again, Mass, great in Assault. Like, his differential is not looking great, you know? He's just barely squeaked his last 2 wins out, and he's still at a negative differential, even though now he's 2-1. So...
Yeah, I think after that, let me see if I remember correctly, pull it up. I think is now at 0. So, you know, at the very least, it's not negative anymore, but, you know, it's not exactly positive. It is
dead even. Sorry, it's not negative, but still, not great. I mean, you'd hope that with more wins than losses, you'd have, you know, a positive differential. Not the case for our friend Invincible Mass. But you know what? Like, again, you know, I'm kind of poo-pooing on him, poking him a little bit. He did a great job. He won this game, and now is at a 2-1 at week 3. Can't be mad about that.
Yep.
Okay, so skipping forward to our last one, why don't you tell me who we've got left on the chopping block?
So our very last one is GTP Woody, coach of the Schaumburg Salamences, versus Claire, coach of the Maryland Manectrics. Both, you know, longtime players. Woody, you know, definitely the underdog. You know, we love Woody in this household, but, you know, he is the player that everyone kind of looks at as like, all right, I need to make sure I get my 6-0 so I get my good differential here.
Yeah, he does not have the reputation that you'd necessarily want as a competitor as guy who wins. He's more so guy who you need to make sure you beat so hard that your differential gets padded.
Yeah.
So, people bring a different energy into the Woody fight, and it's kind of electrifying as a spectator. I do love it. I mean, the stakes are never higher than when you're fighting Woody, because if you let it slip and he beats you, you're kind of fucked. Like, your season gets way harder without the Woody win.
Yeah. And then I know for some people, like they're more stressed fighting Woody than they are fighting IDM, because like, all right, well, at least I know I'm gonna get my ass kicked. But if I'm fighting Woody, then I'm like, oh god, if I lose this, I don't know what to do.
And I'm sure you can relate to the idea that, like, you know, people expect you to win a game, and then that makes it even more scary to play it, because, like, what if I lose? What if I lose to, like, this bozo? And now you know, it's hard when you have expectations levied on you and you have to rise to meet them. Whereas, like, obviously, losing is worse than winning, but I would say losing to IDM or Aurora or Claire, not so bad.
Yeah. Now, looking at this, I will say, you know, Claire this season has been really, like, setup heavy. Definitely wanting to just, you know, set up her Pokemon. But Woody is not that playstyle. Woody is 100%, I just want to click buttons. I want something dead. I'm going to click a button to make something die.
Now, Woody is actually very susceptible to these setup strategies, you know?
That is the other thing.
We see this, like, pretty often where when people want to... Because obviously, like, the mentality, right, is like, if I want to 6-0 Woody, ideally I just have one guy in that gets really big and just, you know, steamrolls the rest of his team. So, I don't want to spoil it, but you'll see someone attempt that next week as well. But, you know, Claire, like, that actually fits her MO quite well. You know, the first game she was fighting something like, you know, Unaware Dondozo. Second game, she's fighting Haze Togetics. Game 3, I don't see something that can handle stat increases. I don't see anything that can phase particularly well. All I see are a bunch of dudes.
Roaring Moon, right there. It's always
That's
roaring.
True. Okay, never mind. You got me. Scrum moment. This looks like a game where Claire can actually lean into the setup spam and possibly get the 6-0 she's looking for.
Real shit. That would be the funniest thing if Roaring Moon like got like some kind of like hidden ability that every time it attacks, it just has roars like fucking effect of making something switch out.
You're always okay. Actually, what if there was a Pokemon whose ability was basically always it moves last? It's always going to have negative priority, but every time it does a move, it also roars.
Honestly, make it bulky, and yeah, you have a fucking incredible Pokemon.
Seems pretty good, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Claire versus Woody.
So we got Registeel and Breloom. Thunder Punch is interesting. Yeah, Soul Reap, Thunder Punch, but unfortunately, doesn't really do a whole lot. And this is, you know, I don't mean to be the spoiler man here, but this is the beginning of the end.
Yeah, I mean, Woody probably could have done with Sporing there. I assume he didn't have it. Yeah.
Yeah.
This thing being at 4 times defense, you know, Woody's draft is incredibly physically offensive. I believe all 6 of these Pokemon are physically offensive as well.
Yep.
You know, he's got 1 Ghost, and he should have gone into that Ghost like 300 years ago, but he didn't. He instead gave his whole team to Claire before going into the Ghost.
Yeah, no, Woody refused to go Ghost. Wanted to stay alive, but yeah, Body Press just kind of goes hard.
I mean, this is echoes of like that one Scoots game versus Phantom Knight where the Spectre won in 7 turns. Except this one, you know, goes a little bit longer because she can't kill the Golurk.
Also, I do want to bring attention to this Trick Evilite.
Woody, okay, so like it's a cute idea, and I get what he's going for, right? Like you want to use your Klutz ability to trick a you know, non-beneficial item to your opponent. This is very common, you know. Klutz, like, you know, Lopunny, for example, they like to trick Assault Vests onto utility Pokemon. You know, normally you can't trick an Assault Vest because Assault Vest prevents you from using status moves, but if you're Klutz, you ignore your item. So, you know, you can trick an Assault Vest onto something that doesn't want to have it. You know, maybe you want to trick like a Sticky Barb, or a Flame Orb, or a Toxic Orb. All of these things would have been great. Woody had an Eviolite. So instead of having an item that does, you know, actively, like, harm to the opponent, he instead just passed along, you know, it could have been a tin of beans from Galar. You know, it doesn't matter what it is. It's just, you know, it's just a wasted item. I think Woody had the right brain, like, processing there, but just off on the wrong, you know, he could have min-maxed that a lot harder, could have gone into it a lot sooner, if that was, like, a Flame Orb or a Toxic Orb switcheroo. He, you know, at the very least, wouldn't have lost to the Registeel.
Yeah. No, it wouldn't have been a 6-0 at the very least, but I don't know. It is interesting. Yeah, I should have just gone out into Golurk like a long time ago.
Yeah. There were ways out of this at team building, and it seems like Woody brought none of them, and also played it pretty much exactly as bad as you could possibly play it. And Claire was awarded her 11-turn 6-0 on a silver platter. And peace was upon the universe, and all was exactly as expected.
Yep.
So, good on Claire for finally getting a chance to just set up spam in front of somebody. I'm sure that was gratifying after, you know, several weeks trying to set it up.
Like, finally, I can rest easy.
But very important for Claire to get that, and of course, she got it. No questions asked.
Yep.
So, I will take the top 4, you take the bottom, if you want to go over the Week 3 standings with me.
Let's do it.
So, leading the pack at a flawless 3-0 +9 record is IDM of the Brussels Espeons. In second place, we've got Claire of the Maryland Manectrics at 2-1 +6, and in third, we have Aurora of the Hoensbroek Hunters at 2-1 +4. Rounding out our top 4 and current playoffs contenders is actually Mass of the Treasure Town Togetics at a 2-1, dead even 0 differential.
Yep. And then in 5th place, we've got Milo, Canadian Cottonees, with a 1-2 with differential of 2. Kind of funny having a higher differential than, the person above you, but yeah, it'd be like that sometimes.
It would be like that.
We've also got Hartford Honchkrows, Jason, at 6th place, also 1-2, but with a -1 differential. We have Cabral, Slinging, Aegislashers, 1-2 as well, but with a -6. And finally, Schaumburg, Salamences, Woody, 0-3, -14. It's rough.
Yeah, it's Woody is not mathematically eliminated, but let's be honest. I mean, Woody's
it's not looking
Woody's
good
out.
for your boy.
This is now effectively a 7-person season for Violet. There's Woody's out of contention. Functionally. And I mean, looking at it, like, it's pretty tight, right? Like, the difference between 2nd and 7th place, 1 win, 12 differential, that's not that bad. I mean, the differential gap is pretty huge, but it's just 1 win, A lot of the time, it's not uncommon to have multiple players at 0 wins by week 3, and in Violet, you've only got Woody inheriting the lion's share of the losses, so this could wind up being a division where we see multiple, 5+ players at 4-3 by the end.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Oh, God, sorry.
No, you're good. Who cares about Violet? I'm going to bed.
Yeah, I don't give a shit. Wake me up when it's Scarlet.
Yeah, nah. I sleep. I sleep on Crow. No, I mean, Cabral's obviously quite psyched about starting to weasel out of that last place spot. Mass, I'm sure, very, relieved, at least in the temporary, for having a win ahead of the next player down. And, soft, he's holding a playoff spot right now. It's very losable, but he still has it, and that's got to be nice.
Yeah, that's kind of the main thing. Like, at this point, like, everyone kind of has their game plan going forward of, like, okay, what do I need to do to secure my spot in playoffs? IDM, he's pretty comfortable. All he needs is just at least 1 more win, preferably 2, really, to, like, help with that differential. But really, he just needs the 1.
Yeah.
Claire, really everyone else, they need a little bit more work. They've got to get at least 2 wins, and they are working on those plans to make sure they get those wins.
Yeah, and you see, again, worth noting, like, the bracket is it's very dependent. It can be a little deceiving when you look at this standings because only some of these people have fought Woody, right? Like, Claire, looking great, 2-1 plus 6, but that's 6. All 6 of that came from Woody just now. IDM and Aurora have not cashed in their Woody fights. Yep. So, like, that could be a losable position.
It could. Especially for Mass. Only having a differential of 0.
Yep, after
literally nothing. So he has to make sure he gets a good differential against Woody, or against anyone else for that matter.
Yeah, well, so like I said, though, Matt's already fought Woody. Is the problem.
Oh, he did? You're right.
He only barely squeaked out a 2-0 win, which is, like, a huge problem, because if you want to hang on to your spot in Violet, like, you need to beat Woody by more than that. And Claire cashed in hers, that's great. But, like, I have a feeling that IDM and Aurora are going to lock in at 1 and 2, like, pretty strongly, and then Claire may be in the scrap pile for, she may have to fight for her playoffs position against, like, Milo and Jason and Cabral,
Yeah.
And Matt.
Yeah, no, honestly, like, this is a pretty evenly matched. Aside from, like, IDM and Aurora, like, everyone else has, like, a very equal chance of making it to playoffs.
Yeah. So, very interesting. Very, very interesting, I think. And I'm looking forward to seeing week 4 of the Violet Division, and I hope you'll join us for that when we get it up. In the meantime, feel free to check out the Teal Division recap only.
You can look at Scarlet if you want, but
don't watch it. Don't watch Scarlet.
Don't look at it with your eyes. Just listen to it.
Don't listen to it. Don't just ignore it. It doesn't exist. It's not real.
Just skip I don't have the timetable. Skip whenever Southtown Sandslashers comes on screen. Just skip that one.
Yeah. What we need to do is have some like binaural beats going on that are like subliminally telling people to just completely disregard everything they see about Southtown Sandslashers, and that'll be fun.
Yeah. This is week 3. You can watch my match. My match is fine.
You can watch
that one.
That's fine. That one's good.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for joining us. We'll be seeing you again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.